Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today I am here with Mark Conrad from Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen. He's located in Waterloo, Ontario. We're excited to have you joining us all the way from Canada, Mark. Welcome to Builder Stories.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. I'm super excited to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you give us a little backstory? I mean, how did you get into construction in the first place?
Yeah, sure. It's a bit of a interesting story, I guess we'll say. Construction is not my original background. I come from the agricultural industry. I was a golf course superintendent for 15 years. That's where things started for me. When the market crashed in 2008, we decided to move my family further south. I was up north in Northern Ontario. Wasn't able to continue my career as a golf course superintendent because most people my age were not moving out of their careers or their positions. So I had to change into the landscape industry when we moved to Waterloo. Did that for about 5 years and realized that it wasn't for me. So decided to try and find something else. So I ended up quitting my job. For about 6 months, I was looking for other work, and a good friend of mine who was coaching hockey with me had a part-time renovation business on the side. So I worked for him for about 6 months, learned a bit of the industry there. It didn't translate into a position, but while I was working for him, I ended up landing a general manager's position for a painting company called New Approach Painting. So that's where I started in this industry. The owner of the company was looking to move on into another career, but wanted to keep the painting company going. So that's why he hired me. Worked there for about 5 years, growing that business. Our focus was being a subcontractor for renovation companies in the area. So we did rather well at that. One company that we did work for was called Schnarr Craftsmen. Greg Schnarr was the owner. He hired our company to do the painting for him. We did that for about 2 years. In 2022, I approached him in January and said, Greg, what type of work do you have for us this year? And he was like, Mark, I decided to retire. I'm not selling any work anymore. I tried to keep the company going and find someone to take it over, but was unsuccessful. I was like, okay, no problem. I kind of sat with that for about a week, and I was like, this might be a good opportunity for us to grow. And it could be a good marriage with the painting company and a renovation company all as one. So went back to the owner of the painting company. I said, what do you think about acquiring a renovation company? So us as a management team sat down on a round table, worked out the pros and cons. A deal ended up being struck with Greg Schnarr, where we did end up taking over Schnarr Craftsmen in 2022. Greg stayed on as a consultant with me. I ended up taking over the management role under Schnarr Craftsmen. We ended up changing the name to Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen, as that company has been around for, well, it was 38 years at the time. It was really well known in the industry and in our city. So we didn't want to change the name because we wanted to keep building the legacy of Schnarr. So that's where the name came from. Greg stayed with me for a year. Things went well. The owner decided that he wanted out of both businesses to further his career. So he ended up working out a deal with me to take over Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen as a 100% owner. And that's how it came to be. So I've been here this is my second year running the company on my own.
Wow.
So that's kind of the story.
That's quite the story, man. That's pretty neat though, how you had the vision to sort of, bring all of these companies together, a painting company with a renovation company. And, sounds like you kind of helped orchestrate all this and ultimately ended up with the company now that you own. That's really awesome, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't a path that I originally thought of back in the day, but I've always wanted to further myself and always looking to grow no matter where I was. And when an opportunity arises, if you can weigh out the pros and cons, and the pros were bigger than the cons, so we thought, let's just jump on this. So, the ownership kind of somewhat, I guess, fell in my lap, and it was like, do we continue to do this or not? I was enjoying and still am enjoying what I'm doing, so decided to take it on.
Yeah. So what was kind of can you give us sort of an idea of the size of both the painting company and the renovation company when you look to merge them together?
Yeah, so painting company, we had about 8 employees. I had a production manager on staff there. We were doing quite well in the mid six figures a year, as far as gross revenue was concerned. Schnarr Craftsman at the time was doing about seven figures in business, with four staff members. Greg also had his wife that was running um, as an office manager, so looking after the books, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where the size of both companies were when we decided to merge. Um,
Awesome. So I'm curious, how did you like did you keep the eight people with the painting and the four with Schnarr? Were there any overlap? Kind of what happened to the employees and the teams? How did you merge them together?
yeah, it was at first we did keep things separate, um, to try and the production manager that we had on staff gave him more responsibility to run the painting side. Was I as I learned the renovation side of things and was kind of on the hip of Greg Schnarr for the next year. Um, there was a bit of overlap as guys had decent skills on the painting side. So as far as looking after product efficiency work and things like that, we were able to bring guys in on the renovation side from the painting side to look after some of the smaller things. Now,
Gotcha.
unfortunately, yeah, it worked out well for a bit. Um, but unfortunately, when the owner decided to get out, um, he offered me the ownership of Schnarr and then offered the production manager the ownership of New Approach Painting. Um, the production manager decided to go out on his own as a painting company, so we dissolved New Approach Painting when I decided to become owner of Schnarr. So right now it is just Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen Renovation Company.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's
So,
it sounds like that's definitely one, probably even the easier approach versus trying to merge, the books and the legal entities and everything all into one and the teams. I mean, so did the production manager, did he take a lot of the team and the clients over there, or did those kind of come with you?
no, he did end up taking the team, which was fine. We had a great conversation about this. We talked it over for about a week,
Yep.
to try and make ends meet. And, we're still in contact. He still does painting for me. Yeah, so it's still kind of a great partnership, a good relationship that is still there. We still talk a lot, which is tremendous. Um, yes, but it now they are obviously two separate entities owned by two different owners.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, that sounds like at the end of the day, it worked out well for everyone. And if you got a great painting company that you can sub out work to, and you're able to come in and manage larger projects, it sounds like a win-win.
Yes, no, most definitely, it certainly does.
So I'm curious, kind of when you first took over the business. I mean, like what were the biggest challenges that you saw, and where did you kind of start spending all of your time? I mean, when you said you were kind of, working at the hip with Greg and really learning the business, like where did you see kind of those areas of like, I need to dig in, here first, and the biggest differences from running a painting company to a full renovations company?
Yeah, like I said, so I didn't spend much time in the office at all. So I was out. Greg and I were out visiting clients, new clients, existing clients, introducing myself. Um, as the new manager and potentially the new owner of Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen. So we would spend a lot of time with the customers. Then I was on site on the existing jobs that we had, trying to learn the ropes, seeing how we move through a project from start to finish. The staff that we had, they would do all the demo and framing. So I'd be involved in that just to see how things were going, put my work boots on, put my gloves on and go to work with them, just to see how they work through these processes. Then most of our sub work would come in and do, like you said, the drywall, the painting, those types of things. And then our crew would come back in and do the finish work. So I would be in there with them working for probably, 3-4 weeks, trying to understand those systems and how they work through projects, because I don't have any knowledge on the construction side of things. I'm not a tradesman by any standpoint. So that's kind of where I spend most of my time in those first few months.
And what types of projects were they doing? I mean, it sounded like you sort of jumped into the middle of a handful of projects. Were those, kind of high-end renovations? Were they long, several months, to complete, or kind of what did the average project there look like?
Yeah, we were all over the place, to be honest. We were doing bathrooms. We had a couple bathrooms that we had just started. So those were the smaller projects, which was great for me to get my hands on. We also had a full home renovation that we were starting a few months in. So I was able to grasp some of the concepts of working through smaller projects, whether it be a bathroom or a kitchen, before I moved into a whole home renovation and tried to understand the grander scope of a project like that, from an office standpoint as well as from a production standpoint. So that's kind of what we had on the go at the time. So it was a great thing for me that we weren't just working on a couple projects that were similar. There was a vast difference in size and scope of these projects that I was able to work through that first year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And really, really great that, Greg was willing to stay on and kind of play that consultant role to really kind of help you learn the ropes and get up to speed. And, sometimes the owners will just kind of walk away and wash their hands and be done with it. So it was great that you had him to sort of keep kind of working and making that transition over time.
Yeah, no, of course, exactly. I mean, he's built this company. He was 38 years in building Schnarr Craftsman, and he didn't want to dissolve the company by any standpoint, right? So we were able to work out a deal, and he understood that he needed to be here for at least a year, maybe 16 months down the road, in order to get me up to speed on where things need to be. So there wasn't any decrease in sales or decrease in productivity or craftsmanship, which would potentially hurt the company in the long run. So yeah,
Sure.
it's great.
I'm curious, like, can you share a little bit more, like, how did you structure this, this transition, this takeover? How did that, like, kind of look? Was there some sort of ongoing piece? Was it, did you pay him some big upfront amount, or like how did you kind of work through that with him?
Um, yeah, so like I said, so the original owner of the painting company owned Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen. So I worked out an ownership deal with him, which had nothing to do with Greg on the side. So once that decision was made, um, then I ended up working in the office. Like I said, beside Greg, but then I also worked with his wife, Carol, who looked after the books. So I would structure my week um, where I would spend a certain amount of time with Greg, then work with Carol to understand the finances and the office side of things, and then be out um, on site with the guys trying to understand how to work through these projects. So that's kind of how I structured my day and my weeks um, as we move forward.
Gotcha. So what would you say have been some of the biggest changes that you've implemented since, kind of really making the full transition from the old owner to you now running the show?
Yeah, the biggest changes was just trying to find people or companies like yourself, like JobTread, to help. I first signed on with Builder Trend. as a software company. There wasn't any software program being used in the office. Greg was doing everything off Excel spreadsheets. I wasn't about to dive into that, not having the knowledge there. So it was just trying to develop and find better software programs that can better systemize the business as we move forward. I ended up signing on with Remodel Commanders because once Greg had left, I'm like, okay, I'm all by myself now. Where do I go from here? So I figured I needed to find a business coach or a company that has a community of like-minded industry people like myself that I can ask questions, understand what they are doing, because I didn't know where to go from there. So I ended up searching out Lane Bolin with Remodel Commanders. We ended up signing a deal last year. And I was able to use him as my business coach and the community that he has with about 100 renovation companies and builders, and use that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, no, that's smart. I mean, again, I see a lot of people who will go years and years, like just not realizing that they can tap into all these larger communities of builders who have gone through this, and they've already sort of figured out a lot of the challenges and how to overcome them. So it sounds like that was a great move with Lane, and bringing on a coach. I mean, again, a lot of people sort of struggle to kind of put their ego aside and say, hey, I need to ask for help, and I need to bring someone in who can help provide me more guidance. So I'm curious, like, where did you, when you joined that, I mean, where did you kind of start? Like, what were your main focuses? Was it on the sales side? Was it on production? Was it, marketing? Was it kind of systems and operations? Like, kind of how did you decide, like, where, to start focusing, and kind of what were some of those early steps that you took?
Yeah, I would say Lane and I sat down and it was okay. Let's try and market your company so we can draw in more business. At the time when I signed on with Remodel Commanders, it was fall of last year, and here, I'm not sure in the States, but in Canada, the construction industry started to decline based on interest rates, based on the housing market. A lot of people weren't spending money. I was getting a little worried, wondering how am I going to attract more business. That's when I decided to seek out a business coach, and Lane came on board right away, and we kind of worked through that system on where we can market the company to get you in front of more clients. Let's start there. Let's get the client on board first, and then we can work through your systems as we work through that client. That's kind of where things started with Lane. It it didn't work according to plan because people just weren't wanting to spend the money here in Canada on the bigger projects. So Lane brought to my attention that he decided that he was starting up a handyman sector. So he approached me and said, like, do you think that this might be a good avenue for you to take with your company to start up another division and see if we can focus on some of the smaller projects? So that's where in the new year, we decided to put something together on the handyman side. Lane came here and spent a week with me. We went through the interview process with hiring new staff. He went through the whole systems process on how to create a handyman division. So within 1 week, we had the handyman division up and running. Part of his marketing crew was helping me market that side of the business. It took off like wildfire right from the get-go. So now I was back basically running two divisions again, kind of similar to the painting and the construction side, but it was very a much better correlation with the renovation company. So that's kind of where we went to, and that's where I am now.
No, that sounds, sounds great. I mean, do you focus on kind of, so it sounds like you really kind of focus on, let's get in the door, let's build the relationship, let's take on, a small project, kind of maybe a couple small projects. Do you ultimately, like, is the plan to sort of try to, at some point when the homeowner's ready, upsell to a larger renovation, or is it, you just kind of keep focusing on doing the smaller handyman work?
Oh, well, right now we're doing both. Um, right? So the handyman side is doing well, and the great thing is that that kind of runs itself. The staff, they're able to go to the clients, they look after the quoting, they look after the production, they look after buying the materials. So I'm kind of hands off on that side, which is great. I mean, I review the quotes and review the work. It's a few hours a week that I spend there, so I'm able to focus on the renovation side. So we are doing, yeah. And on the renovation side, I tend to look at trying to create and receive bigger projects. So whole home renovations, I try and stay away from the smaller side of things because that takes just as much time to produce as it does a bigger project. So that's why I try and tend to stay on the bigger side of things on the renovations.
Sure. So, and how have you managed like to have the brands of these two divisions? Like, do you have one website? Do you have multiple websites? Like, have you kind of tried to keep them separate, or are they both still under the same brand?
No, they are somewhat separate. So I do have two different websites. Um, the handyman company is called Schnarr Legacy Home Repair. So that's the correlation is the Schnarr Legacy. So when people do see Schnarr, they can understand, and websites will both pop up on the renovation and the handyman side. Um, and it's been great that way because we've actually ended up receiving some bigger projects through the handyman side. Just because we've spent more money on the marketing side of the handyman to try and increase that revenue and grow that side, which has potentially helped to grow Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen home renovations on this side.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, sounds like a great strategy there. Kind of what's the total team look like? I mean, you said you kind of have, it's really run with two teams, and they kind of stay in their lanes. It sounds like. So how, like on the handyman side, what's that team look like?
Yeah, so right now I have two employees on the handyman side. Um, they're able to do 1 to 2 jobs at a time, depending on the size and scope of the project. Those two guys work really well together. Um, I am also able to use them now, as I did with the painting company at the beginning, to do like the product deficiency work at the end of a project, or if I need them to come in and prepare the site before we start demolition, then I'm able to use them, which allows me to free up my renovation staff to continue doing other work. So yeah, so
And
they do kind of come in and out. The handyman come in and out of the renovation side as well, but it's strictly under the handyman division, so to speak.
and so are those couple people, are they actually kind of doing the work themselves, or are they managing the quoting and kind of the sales project management side?
Yeah, so um, a little bit of both. So they look after the quoting on the handyman side, but the marketing looks after itself as far as the sales. So first point of contact, yes, is me, and we have an automated virtual assistant that if I do not pick up the phone, as it's a different phone number from the renovation side, if I'm not able to answer that call, then it goes to an automated virtual assistant that runs through um, certain lines of questions, which then they're able to go into my calendar and book a meeting with me, which is a phone call for 15 minutes to see what type of project they are looking to have done. Now, once I'm able to have that phone call, then I'm able to book in my handyman to go and do a diagnostic visit for the client, and then it's left up all to the handyman to deal with after that.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Awesome. And so
Yeah.
how does that process differ from the renovation side? Like, what is the marketing kind of lead, to sales process look like over on that side?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a I'm not sure. We might have to cut that out and start over.
That's all good. So, like, I mean, you have the separate website. And so it's coming, those leads are also going straight to you. And then do you have like a pre-qualification call with them and then go out on site?
Yes, for sure. So no, there is a definitely a pre-qualification. That's where that 15-minute phone call comes in handy. Um, and I ask them to send me any pictures that they are able to send with the project that they are wanting to do. But then it's up to the handyman. I book their schedule and create a diagnostic visit for the handyman to go and view the site. Um, they are able to look at the pictures so they kind of understand the scope of the work. We have a quick 5-minute phone call so they are up to speed on what is needed. Then they are able to go to site, meet the client in person, go through the project. They do a quote right on site in front of them. That client is able to sign off on that quote. Um, then the handyman gives a conversation or has a phone call with me. We decide when we can fit that into the schedule. So within an hour, the project is quoted, signed off on by the client. A diagnostic visit is paid for. We are scheduling the project and away we go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's great. Sounds like the handyman business is, it was a nice ad for you to really kind of just kind of get the leads coming in, get the project flow going, generating some revenue. But it's been a nice, sounds pretty turnkey for you to kind of get those projects in and out pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Lane has done a great job with creating this division and streamlining it and making it very simple to start and allowing an owner or a manager to not have a lot of on-site or hands-on work that needs to be done for that. So, like you say, it was a pretty easy decision for me to make at that time instead of trying to push more marketing on the renovation side for the bigger projects because it just wasn't hitting home with the clients based on the markets and the economy here in Canada.
Yeah. So how many handyman projects would you say, you'll run this year?
Yeah, like we've done in the first 3 months, we've done about $70,000 worth of work. Um, those spanned anywhere from a couple $100 to a $10,000 project.
Okay.
Um, right. So, I mean, if you look at that, we're going to be, around $250,000 gross revenue for the year. Um, if it continues to do as well as it has been, which is great. Profit margins are good. We're making money on that side, which is nice. Um, yeah. So, come the new year, maybe we'll look to expand as things are growing. We are very busy on the renovation side. We have about 7 figures of work that'll be in the books come January. So, definitely needing the help um, with a production manager, with office staff now. So that's my focus between now and January is building an office staff that can help me grow both sides of the business through sales and marketing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that sounds like you really got the handyman going. Now these on the renovation side, you've got those projects. I mean, are those the ones where are you a lot more hands-on on those? Like kind of what is the sales process different for the larger projects?
Yes, no, most definitely. I mean, I'm very hands-on. Um, it's my face they see knocking on the door after we have a phone call, um, trying to understand what type of project they're looking to have done. Yeah, so it's me through the whole process on the sales side there, which I believe is key. Being able to translate from Schnarr Craftsman to Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen and keep that legacy going. Greg was very good at being in front of the clients, making sure that the communication was there and that the craftsman stayed where it needed to be. So that has always been my focus on the renovation side.
And do you go in and are you going in and like providing designs? Like is this like a design build or how do you kind of come up with with the design aspect? Are you selling a design agreement to them?
Yeah, so I have a couple of interior designers that I use, because I don't have the staff here and it's just me. So, if we go in and the project is big enough where they do need a design agreement, um, then I would talk to them about, you know what, here's a few designers that I work with. So I kind of give that portion of the work as a sub to a designer to deal with. So I have some great partnerships there. So that's how the design agreement kind of works, by using a sub, because I just don't have the bandwidth to be able, or the time to look after a design and understand that whole scope of work, where I'm more on the production side of things with our company. So
Sure.
that's kind of how it correlates. So
Yeah, no,
yeah, it becomes a team effort.
yeah, that makes total sense, and, I guess you get the benefit of kinda having a couple different designers that you can sort of introduce the client to, sort of feel out kinda which style or which, approach that they like better, and then they get to make the selection on who they wanna move forward with the design side, and then I guess once that's all agreed upon, you take back over and do the kinda the takeoff and estimate the cost, and that's when you go in with the construction contract?
Yes, no, most definitely. Yep,
Awesome.
yep.
And, I'm curious how, like, how do you sort of structure these agreements or these partnerships with the designers, and are there other types of partnerships that you've put in place to sort of, kind of work together to, get leads as well as refer out, business such as to the designers?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's become a good partnership because the few designers that I do use, they have also approached me and said, "Look, I have a project that I have signed on with a client. Um, I'd love to work with you again on this project. Can you come in as the general contractor and look after the production, the quoting of the project?" And we look at the costs, we look at what the designer wants to take on, versus what I want to take on. And yeah, it's you know what, it's helped grow the renovation side as well without having to market a whole lot on my end, which is a saving grace, most definitely.
Makes Makes sense. So, I'm curious, since you don't have that kind of extensive construction background, I mean, how are you doing, the takeoff and doing the, determining the cost for the project? I mean, is that something that you've got someone else that kind of helps with that, or,
Well,
how do
that's
you manage that?
yeah, that's where that first year of consulting with Greg Schnarr was a huge learning curve for me. So I basically took all his Excel spreadsheets and was able to move that into the software program now, JobTread, that I'm using, which has been great. We went over the numbers and he showed me the formulas that he is using, which I was able to transfer into a software program that I'm using now, where we can move around profit margins, try and understand where those costs are, be able to track um, the timelines that we are working through these projects, so I can see where we are doing very well or where we are maybe falling behind, and then try and change some of those systems where we can create a better margin for ourselves as we move forward.
That's
It's
awesome. So you got like kind of really a full blown system set up, through JobTread. You actually worked with Greg to sort of transform or transfer all of his spreadsheets and formulas and kind of how he was calculating the cost. You got that all set up as templates within JobTread, and then that's what allows you to, kind of work through what each project would cost based on their needs and based on how Greg has, done it for, several decades.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I didn't want to change the wheel, right? I mean, it was a good system that worked for him. It was just a matter of streamlining it for me, being the only person in the office, and how can I work through the coding process and the sales process as quickly as possible so the clients um are able to work through their side, and go from sales to quoting to production in a timely manner. The last thing I wanted was me to come in and quote the job, um, and it take a long time for us to get to the point where we can produce the work. right? So that's where Remodel Commanders has come in handy, with developing systems on that side, where JobTread has now come in handy on the software side to try and streamline everything, and get things moving on a quick basis for the client. So there's nothing lagging.
That's great. So I'm curious. I mean, obviously, things will come up. I mean, how do you handle situations where, let's say there was, something was missed, or, unforeseen circumstances? Like, I mean, do you have kind of, are you using change orders? Are you using, kind of different clauses within your contract that if something, doesn't go how you had expected when you quoted, you have that option to come back and try to expand the contract or recoup some of those, potential extra cost?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do use change orders, but at the beginning of our process, I'm very open and honest with the client, and we try and tackle every certain situation that we might come up with on that project. So the client has a full picture of where we are going to end up at the end. The last thing I want to do is work through the project and we have a budgeted amount that everything has been signed off on. And now we've blown the budget out of proportion because we haven't seen or understand the potential situations that we might find through the project. So that's where a face-to-face meetings that I have a number of, at the beginning of the project. I also had my lead carpenter who has been in the business for 40 years. He also comes with me so he can talk through the more technical aspects of the project because I don't have that knowledge. And then I am able to focus more on the financial side, with the client. And then, of course, the designer is there as well. So we try and tackle everything at the very beginning before we even step foot on the job, to produce the work.
Yeah, that's great. That's the way to go. I mean, as much as you can, kind of get it all out there at the beginning and not have surprises later. I mean, obviously nobody likes to have change orders. It's obviously best to kind of get it all flushed out early on. Um, I'm I'm curious. So, like, what does the client's experience look like as once you start construction and kind of all the way through to wrapping up that project? Like, how involved is the client with you? How much information are you sharing with them? When do you do those check-ins?
Yeah, I'm virtually sharing everything. Honesty is the best policy as far as I'm concerned. Um, so yeah, whether it's biweekly visits or weekly visits, I'm potentially in contact with the client, pretty much on a daily basis, whether it's through text, email, phone, or in person. Yeah, so once they start, they see my face a lot in order to work through, any issues that might arise, or even if it's just an update. We're able, I make time to walk through the project with them, show them where we are in the schedule, what's coming up next. I enjoy being in front of people, so I'd rather do it face to face than whether it's through a Zoom call or over the phone. It's just much easier that way. I do plan to try and do more, probably more video as we move forward, and be able to post more things online with potential issues, talking about how we work through the quoting process and the production process so the clients are more aware at the very beginning, instead of me having to spend all that time with the client face to face, telling them that this is what's going to happen as you work through the project. And I'm hoping that that will improve the sales as we move forward too.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess at the end of the projects, whether it's on the handyman side, the renovation side, like, how do you approach, reviews and testimonials, things like that? Or are you capturing those, those moments kind of when the client's just, excited that everything's been wrapped up? Like, do you try to, capture video testimonials or do anything like that yet?
Not so much video yet, but I do send them a review link. And at the end of every handyman job, I do try and get there to visit the client to make sure that everything, worked out to their liking. And so far, we've had some great reviews on that side. We haven't had a job that has gone astray. If they do come up, if there are any issues, let's say on the handyman side on a smaller project, right, then I'm able to schedule my staff to get in there right away to look after it. So it's not lagging because it is a small project. No one wants, a door screen that's improperly fixed to be sitting there for a week or two and not being done correctly. So, yeah. Yeah. So trying to get face to face with each client can be a little taxing, but I feel that that's the best way right now um, to keep things positive on both sides of the business.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, Mark, you've really done a good job getting this business up and going, and I think this is a great lesson to everyone out there who might be worried that because they didn't grow up in construction, and they might not have as much experience in construction, like that doesn't mean that you can't build a successful construction business. It's about understanding your strengths, playing to those and building, a team around you that can help, with the other aspects while you're learning, while you're developing, while you're getting better. Having those systems and processes in places has obviously been a huge, asset for you to really kind of let you ramp up. And, I think bringing your lead carpenter to, involving them early on in the process, involving the designers with you, it's that team approach that seems to be really working well for you to be able to, sell these jobs and get these jobs, into production and, completed, hopefully always on time and on budget.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, I've been in management for 25 years now. It started pretty early and I've learned a lot within those years and understand that you got to treat your business like as a family. Regardless of if they are living with you in the house, so to speak, whether they actually work for you or if they're a sub to some degree. Um, you want the client to understand that they are all here to support them, to support the project. They're there to support myself. Um, I don't know everything, and I want the client to know that, and I want them to understand that we have great professionals that can also answer questions, that can also work through the project with them. That it's not all going through me, and that has worked very well so far over this second year of me being at the helm as an owner. So yeah, looking to move forward with that and growing, trying to collect more designers as we grow. Looking to move my lead carpenter into the production manager position. Um, and then just try and find better and more efficient carpenters to grow the business on both sides.
Yeah, I love that. Treat your business as a family. I mean, that's awesome there. I mean, are there things that like you do from a culture standpoint to try to bring your teams together to kind of build that family culture there?
Yeah, I mean, we try and do a number of outings through the year. I mean, the great thing is that both the Handyman Division and the Renovation Division work well together, and they also work together on projects when it needs to happen. More obviously on the renovation side, not so much on the handyman side. So, we have regular meetings here at our shop. We try and do some social events as well, to kind of forget about work and grow that positive family culture that we want here at Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen. So that's where we go. Speaking of family too, coming in the new year, I plan to use my wife as a salesperson on the handyman side, so she can tackle more of the going after the realtor side of things in that division as well. I have two stepdaughters that are in marketing, so looking to use them to help market both sides of the business. When I get to develop some video and hand it off to them, and they can look at looking after the social media side of things for the businesses. So yeah, it's great. I had my son and stepson in here working with me this summer, trying to see if I could grab their attention and get them interested in the construction side of things. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's great. I'm fortunate I get to work with my dad. He's our CFO here, and I think it really helps bring that family culture, to everyone in the company. And a lot of them will, refer to him as Uncle Don. And, I think it's just awesome when you can bring your family together to work together. Now I've also seen it where it doesn't always work out as you might hoped. And, there can be, there definitely can be challenges. And so, my advice would be, look, if it doesn't seem like a right fit for any one of the people who, just isn't happy, for example, my wife early at the beginning of job trade, she came in and was also helping do a little bit of sales and some cold calling, and it just wasn't her jam. She was doing it to help me, but I could tell it wasn't what she was passionate about. And I was like, look, babe, we got it off the ground. Like, you don't need to keep doing this. So, I think it's all about finding, the right fit and making sure that it's working for everyone. And if it doesn't, no harm, no foul, just, no pressure. And I think kind of, just keeping that healthy balance, to make sure that everyone is aligned and on the same page and wants to keep, going together.
Yeah, no, I totally agree for sure. Trying to deal with family as a part-time staff worker with you, like you said, can have its challenges, but it's about, like you say, having that family member try and stay in their lane. It is something that they are passionate about. Like my wife is great at sales. She doesn't have a sales job, so she is very excited to go out there, put her feet firmly on the ground and go and talk to a lot of people. She's a great social person, so I think that will work out well. As well as the girls that are in marketing. I mean, that's what they're passionate about. So I can't see that being a negative moving forward, right? So hoping come the new year that that's something that will allow Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen to grow and maybe set us apart a little bit from other companies.
That's awesome. So, we've talked about a lot, kind of how you're really just deep in the weeds right now, getting the business up and running, getting to the point where it can start to really flourish and grow. Like, what's the bigger vision here? Where do you want to take the business? Where do you hope to see it in, 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's something I think about a lot. Um, you know, do I want to be the premier renovation company in the region? Most definitely. What does that look like? Do we become a 10, $15 million company, or do we keep it smaller, keep it more family oriented, deal with certain niches within the industry? I'm not really sure where that's going to go. It's kind of just, you know what, let's see what happens as things kind of continue to grow. Maybe we do find a certain niche that we can focus on, or maybe it is something that will become a lot bigger as we move forward. Um, I- as you know, based on my career choices, I'm always one to kind of take a bit of a risk and to always look to further myself and grow. I'm excited to be an owner of this company. It's done really well for the past 40 years, and I just want to continue to keep that legacy going. And hopefully I can be in a position that Greg Schnarr was in a few years, where I'm able to either sell off the business and have it continue to grow, or maybe I'm going to look at passing it on to a family member. Who knows? But definitely looking to grow this business as much as I can in this region here and have it become a well-known household name.
That's great. Yeah. I'm curious, for you personally, like what would you say, the biggest challenges are that you face, and what would you say the things that get you the most excited are every day?
Yeah, challenges is time. Um, being the be all and end all of the company, from sales to accounting to human resources, it's a lot to undertake. Most definitely. So there's a lot of hours spent on working during the day, and at home as well. But we have 6 kids between my wife and I, so it's a busy household at home. I do get excited to get home to see everybody. The kids are older and they're more independent, which is great. But yeah, my excitement just comes from getting up and in the morning and coming to work and really excited about who am I going to meet today, what's the next project that's going to come through the door, so to speak, and how can I better myself and grow the business with that client. If I can learn from the mistakes that I've made through other projects and be able to not allow those mistakes to happen with the next client, then that's what gets me excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I guess kind of in wrapping up here, I'm curious, for all of our other listeners out there who may be in a similar situation or maybe even earlier along, do you have any advice for them, if they, if they aspire to, to take on a business or take over a business or create one from scratch, like, given your perspective, kind of coming more, with the management experience, the business side of things, like what do you wish you would have known, earlier on that now, or, kind of just what advice might you give others?
Seek out help. That's the biggest one, but seek out the help from the right people that are in the right career or industry that you need. I did when I first joined Greg with Schnarr Craftsmen, and he was becoming my mentor, and I was trying to figure out, okay, so what happens when he leaves? Where do I go from there? Right? I decided to do a Tony Robbins mastermind, which was great. Spent a week in my basement online, trying to figure out how to grow my business. It helped me more mentally and emotionally, create a stronger person within inside myself, not so much grow the business. That's when I realized, you know what, I need to find someone in the industry that can coach me through this. That's where Lane Bolin and Remodel Commanders came in handy right at the right time. Working with him, you got to understand, you got to find those people that are in that lane that can help you. I have a great accountant that I work with now, trying to work with some family members that have great careers in certain niches. So just try and develop a great group of people around you, and don't think that you have to do everything on your own or reinvent the wheel, because everything's already been done before. So just try and understand what will work best for you, find out what that is and where it is, and then try and get it in your business.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate that advice, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing, this journey that you've been on and how you've been able to, get it to where it is today, and kind of getting it up and going, and just even learning how you had to pivot and create the Handyman Division, and how that's been a good boost for you, and then allowing you to keep focusing on the renovations. But it's definitely you've done a really good job getting this thing off the ground, and I'm excited to see where you can take it in the next couple of years and how you can keep building out the business. And it sounds like you really have the passion and the desire and the skills to keep building this into the premier renovations company that you seek to do. So I'm excited to even just be a partner here along for the ride with you, getting to see your growth. But it's exciting, and what you've done seems that you've done exactly what you said, is to figure out what works well for you and invest in that. You've invested in yourself, your own development, your own learning. You found great partners to bring around the table to help you get the business going. And I think sky's the limit. So it'll be exciting next couple of years to see where you take the business, Mark.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited to see where it goes. I'm hoping we can do this again in about another year or 8 months, right? Just to kind of see where things have correlated and how things have gone from now till then. So yeah, I mean, this has been a great experience. As you said, the sky is the limit at this point. Just going to continue to keep the nose to the grindstone and continue to develop those relationships that will allow Schnarr Legacy Craftsmen and Schnarr Legacy Home Repair to grow and become the premier companies that they should be and need to be in this industry and in this region.
It sounds awesome, man. Love to have a 8 month to 12 month check in. We'll see where you're at and see how things are going. And again, it's very exciting though, these early years. Especially kind of once you've gotten over that initial grind of how are we gonna make payroll tomorrow. I think now you're really starting to get into the fun where you can start playing with the marketing, seeing what's working, bringing in deals. It's definitely clear that you're on the up and up. So keep up the great work, Mark. Look forward to seeing where you can take it.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to continue the partnership with JobTread, and I'm on the phone with your staff weekly, monthly to try and, learn more about the system that you have out there, which is great. So we'll continue to do that with everyone else that I have at my fingertips and see where this goes.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. See ya.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.